I was born here in Metro Manila, specifically in Quezon City. So, Quezon City is a city in Metro Manila. I really love this city. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but I'm very happy here in this city. Luckily, I live in a neighborhood that I really love. I teach and live in a neighborhood that I really love. So, it's not the safest place in the world. Of course, there are places here in Metro Manila wherein the crime is a lot lesser. Okay, so it will make you become more aware of your surroundings. I am known as a minimalist. So basically, I believe in lesser things, lesser problems. If you can simplify things, people will understand you more. You can cope up with life better if you keep things simple. And I'm also known for being an extrovert. I love people. I love creating connections, making friends. I love getting to know people. I love talking to different kinds of people and understanding their culture and the way they live their life. Now, as a martial artist, I have a vast background in Filipino martial arts. So I do Filipino martial arts, or also known as Arnis, Kali, or Eskrima, wherein I teach my students how to fight with sticks, knives, long blades, and of course, even without it, of course. And I also have an extensive background in other martial arts such as Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and but the main thing I teach, the main thing I practice is Filipino martial arts, or again, also known as Arnis, Kali, or Eskrima. I believe that there is such a thing as being a minimalist in martial arts. To explain further, you can simplify your movements, you can simplify your techniques. If you remove the fancy movements, the fancy movement, the fancy action, and just focus on the short movements that will make it efficient in a fight. For example, instead of just doing two moves in a fight, some people do 3 to 4 moves. But again, it depends on the context. The more movement you do on film, it makes you look good. But of course, in a real life situation wherein you have to defend yourself, you want to be a minimalist. You want only 1 to 2 or even just one movement in a fight. If you can finish a fight with a simple punch, a simple hit, or two movements wherein you can just avoid and hit, you finish the fight. That's an example of being a minimalist in a fight or in defending yourself. So you keep things simple so that you finish the job faster.
Bring your knife on the inside of his arm here, sever all the connective tissue, pulling his finger away from the trigger, and at the same time coming around his left shoulder, grab this strap, choke him now, come into his heart, through the top of his sternum and bring him to the ground. Very good, go. Arm, throat, heart, leg, arm, lung.
So basically, my background in martial arts it started when I was 12 years old. So my first martial art wasn't actually Filipino martial arts. My martial arts back then was Taekwondo. I started with Taekwondo. And then I fell in love with it. And then through the years, I've learned about other martial arts because, of course, as a curious kid, I tend to research, read books. I saw Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu, MMA, all these arts. It really made me curious. And then as years came by, I realized, yes, I'm good with my hands. I can fight with my hands. I can kick, I can punch, I can wrestle, I can grapple. But what if somebody pulls out a knife? Somebody pulls out a weapon. What am I going to do? So that's the time I thought that, hey, Filipino martial arts teaches that. And I'm a Filipino and I live in the Philippines. Might as well take advantage of that. So I took the chance, I studied Filipino martial arts, so there. And then I just fell in love with it. Since I'm a Filipino, it naturally felt that there was a connection in the art. I knew the language, I knew the culture, and it was easy to talk about the history of that because, of course, since I live here, it's in school, we talk about it in school. It was very natural for me to relate to it. And then I just fell in love with it. And another reason is, What inspired me about Filipino martial arts is that if you look at the teachers, the grandmasters, as old as 80, 90 years old, they are still teaching. Some of them are still efficiently teaching at their 80s. So I said to myself, if I'm gonna grow old that way, I'm gonna take that path as well. So it inspired me to choose this martial art because aside from the effectiveness in a street fight, it also gave me a sign that this is something I can do long term. Well, one of the challenges I faced here as a Filipino martial artist was it was actually hard to find schools here. It's funny because when you go here in the Philippines, it's not like in other countries wherein you can just go to a gym and then there's a Filipino martial arts instructor there. Here in the Philippines, it's kind of challenging to find an instructor. So what I had to do back then, years ago, well, that was more than a decade already. I had to go to this gymnasium here in the Philippines wherein they were teaching the Philippine team of Filipino martial arts. So I bravely went there, talked to the head coach, and then I asked for private lessons. I prefer private lessons. So the challenge was I had to save up because I wanted to learn one-on-one. I believe in private lessons. The way I teach my students is how I want to learn. My challenge as a human being practicing martial arts is you need to have that discipline we're in. Number one, of course, you have to avoid drinking or at least minimize your drinking. Sorry, but if you're gonna be a martial artist, in my opinion, you have to avoid smoking. So I never smoked in my life. And then yeah, people say it's sad, but it's okay. For me, it's a lifestyle. And then of course you have to watch what you eat. And then most important is how long do you sleep? Do you sleep 7 to 8 hours? Because taking care of your body will be able to make you perform well. Because if you don't sleep enough, you don't eat right, you have these vices, it will slow you down. If you smoke a lot, your stamina will go down. And drinking, of course, will make you feel heavier. If you sleep, if you get enough sleep, it will make you alert there. So basically, the challenge is you have to have that discipline to take care of yourself. So you have to sacrifice the late nights with your friends once in a while, I guess. But if you're gonna take it in a serious level wherein you're gonna compete or you're gonna teach, you will have to sacrifice that. So I had to sacrifice sleeping late, going out a lot, but it was worth it for me. It was worth it for me, and I experienced the health benefits of that. Martial arts is not just about physical training, it's also a way to mentally strengthen you. When you spar, when you do sparring, you get into a tournament, if you get defeated during the fight or you get defeated during the tournament, some people will take it negatively. They will feel down, they will give up and take it badly. For me, there's no such thing as losing, but I see it as learning. So if you fail or you didn't succeed in a fight or in a tournament, that's not an experience that will make you fall. It's an experience wherein you will learn something wherein. So take defeat as a learning experience, not as something that will pull you down. Second, you will learn how to set goals. For example, if your goal is to become a black belt, regardless what martial art is that, if you want to become an instructor, okay, are you taking the steps towards that goal? Because any goal that we have, what's important is we take action. Sometimes we tend to be focused too much in the future. For me, I tell my students, I tell my friends, if you have a goal, celebrate the small progress. So the point here is it will train you mentally to achieve your goals, not just in martial arts. This is something that you can apply in your life, whether it's your career, your health, if you have goals for your health, your career, your relationships. It will teach you about working on your goals little by little. Because I believe in small achievements at first, taking baby steps, because sometimes those baby steps will lead you to the bigger picture that you want to achieve in your life. So it will teach you the value of patience as well. When I get old, my big dream is to have instructors in different countries. I want students who will become instructors in different countries. It could be Italy, it could be France, it could be America, it could be Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Germany, name it. I want my students to become instructors like me and spread the art all over the world. I mean, not this is not just for Filipinos, okay? You could be French, you could be Italian, you could be American, you could be Singaporean, you could be Japanese, and you're teaching the Filipino art in different countries. That will make me really happy if they could represent me and the community of Filipino martial arts. And it will, of course, it would be great if I could visit each country and share my lessons if that's possible. So that's my big dream, to spread it all over the world and for people to see the value, this beautiful art of Filipino martial arts that I enjoy, and I want people to enjoy it the way I enjoy it as well. It's also my way to connecting in different countries, showing them, offering each country that, hey, Filipino martial arts is so beautiful. And of course, another dream is, actually it's already happening, but I want to be a part of it. Filipino martial arts is known to be used by military people, people in the military, law enforcement officers. It's a known fact that's already being used. It's been spread already. But I want to be part of that also. I want to share my knowledge to law enforcement officers abroad and military officers abroad, because I'm doing it here already. But it would be a big step for me if I could also share it in other countries as well. That's my big dream. If you search the history of the Philippines, way back, the Philippines has a national hero. His name is Lapu-Lapu. He's from Cebu. So he used Filipino martial arts. Of course, back then it wasn't used. The term Filipino martial arts wasn't being used back. Or the people from Cebu. Cebu is a part of the Philippines. Who used to defend. They used Filipino martial arts to defend themselves against the colonizers. Because during that time, the Spaniards wanted to invade the Philippines. Our national hero, Lapu-Lapu, defended the Philippines against the Spaniards back then. And back then, they were using blades, long swords, long weapons. So, of course, modern day, we don't use swords anymore, because if you go out here in the streets of Quezon City, you won't see anybody carrying a sword. However, you can replace the sword with a long stick. Okay? Now, the cool thing about it is that how you use the sword is also how you use the knife. So you just made the weapon smaller. So that's what makes it very Filipino, because if you trace the history, we are a bladed art. Filipinos were using blades to fight. So it was carried on up to present time. So if you notice, Filipino martial artists, we use a lot of blades. Knives, balisong. We're not limited in blades, because the movements of the blade is very similar to empty hand or without the weapon. For example, if I'm thrusting a knife, if this is a knife, if I'm thrusting the knife, it's also a punch. See? It's also a punch. So the movements are almost the same. If I'm stabbing here with a knife, I'm also like punching. It's like I'm giving an uppercut. So the movements of the knife is very similar to empty hand. So basically, I could describe that Filipino martial arts is an all-around martial art, because you do weapons, you kick, you punch, and then you can also grapple. So it's not limited to sword and sticks. Metro Manila, I would say, influenced me to learn how to adapt to hard things in life. I mean, there's no denying that Philippines has, I think we're one of the worst, we have the worst traffic in Asia, or one of the worst traffic in Asia. But because of that, it made me more adaptive. It made me more appreciating. It made me stronger mentally in being able to adapt to this kind of situation. So basically, Manila made me learn how to become flexible. So for example, in other countries, when you talk to people, you can talk to them straightforward. You can tell them your thoughts directly. Here in the Philippines, it doesn't work that way, right? Here in the Philippines, you're not just talking to them. You can't just say it directly, because sometimes you have to be sensitive. You have to be careful with what you say. So here, communicating is a bit challenging. So I knew how to communicate, wherein I had to assess how the person feels. And it made me become more tactful in communicating, being able to assess first what to say and what not to say to that person. So it increased my communication skills, adapting to different kinds of attitudes of people, and adapting to the environment. So for me, being able to adapt, being flexible, not just physically, of course, mentally, is an advantage. So that's how Metro Manila influenced me.